Hey, it's Chris, and this is the story about how a little known app called Muse completely changed the way I use my iPad Pro. When I first got an Apple Pencil for the iPad Pro, it was the Gen 1. It was the slippery one, the one that charged all weird and still does. I liked the idea of using it. I wanted to use it all the time. It seemed like I should be getting a lot of use out of it, but I actually ended up not using it all that much. Why? I mean, I wasn't an artist, and even though I could use it, there was nothing on the iPad itself that kind of kicked me into Apple Pencil mode by default. I mean, I would sketch with it a little, and I would scratch out some notes here and there with it, but not systematically. And that sort of default mode of not really using the Apple Pencil all that much really kind of lasted up through the era of buying this new Apple Pencil Gen 2. What I'm trying to say is I didn't rely on the Apple Pencil for anything. It was definitely underutilized. So every time it was time to create stuff on my iPad, I would end up typing it. So if it was a note or an article or a script, I'd type it. If I was gonna make a mind map, that got typed. And again, it's not that I never used the Apple Pencil, it's just that I wasn't relying on it for any particular thing. It was always a nice to have. So it was nice to have for signing contracts with my actual signature. But at the same time, it wasn't a must have. So like if I lost it, then life went on. My business continued on just fine. But one day I discovered this app called Muse, and it's a little bit more well-known today, but even now, among all the infinite canvas style apps, it's still kind of a relatively small player. But there was something about Muse that changed the way that I perceived the iPad and the Apple Pencil and what it could do and what I could do with it. And maybe beyond that, how I should be using these tools. Now, to understand why, you have to understand Muse itself. What I love about it, and I know I've talked about it before, is that instead of creating the same app experience for different size screens, like basically every other app out there, Muse decided to create a specific app with a specific purpose for the iPhone and a different sort of interaction with Muse specifically for the iPad, and the same thing specifically for the strengths of the Mac. And the iPad experience is cool because it lets you create these infinitely nested canvases. So just canvases inside of canvases inside of canvases if you want to. But the crazy thing is there's almost no rigidity. Muse really gets out of the way, and I think that's what it's supposed to do. The interface is all about keeping things as simple as possible. The tool set is purposely very limited. But that's actually amazing because that constraint actually makes me way more creative. I'm not thinking about, well, what out of these 50 tools is the best one to do whatever it is I'm doing. There's too much mental load for a lot of apps. Here it's just, no, I'm gonna use this tool and just get to work, and it flows. For me, the iPad app here acts like a magnet, and it just draws all the ideas out of my head and into the canvas. Now at this point, when they land there, they're not always pretty, right? But it lets me kind of hack them up and move things around, and it's all very pliable. It's not rigid, like I said. So this is where I'm sort of formulating stuff before I actually make use of it in another app. So when I say the interface is simple, that's actually not doing it justice, because the team has done a good job of making it feel really simple, but at the same time, there's a lot of power under the hood. There's all these little Easter egg features that if you take the time to get to know this app, and it's not just apparent right off the bat, all these cool little features, it just revs things up and takes it to a whole new level. And you're just like, oh, wow. Now, the purpose of this story here in this video is not to like do a deep dive tutorial and show you all the ins and outs. I'm mostly just telling you how it changed my workflow. But you can go on the website and you can see all these fun features. And it is something to learn. There's a little bit of a cost to using this app outside of just the price, right? You gotta invest a little bit of time here to make it worth your while. But wow, is it worth your while? But because of all that, because of the interface and because of that intentional design that's been infused into this really unique iPad app, it's ended up giving me, a non-artist, I mean, I'm okay with like art stuff, but it's not my job, right? I'm not doing it to make a living. It's given me, a non-artist, an actual reason to use and rely on the Apple Pencil. When it's time to start a new project, I no longer just default straight into typing. I often start in Muse. And actually I should back up a little bit because I have this framework called the 6 C's, and here's just kind of a brief overview of what that looks like and where Muse fits into it. But Muse kicks off my actual production cycle whenever I'm creating a piece of content. So I do capture ideas in drafts ahead of time. But when it's time to do something with those ideas, it starts in Muse. But here's something that's actually really funny. I didn't take to Muse right away. It took me several attempts. Like I downloaded it and deleted it, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 different times before I finally was like, I feel like there's something here. I think I really need to explore it and take the time to get to know it and actually try using it. So I sort of set a challenge for myself. Look, just use it for like 2 weeks, see how it goes. And when I did fight it a little bit. It was a little bit foreign, but sometimes that's good. I found this great Kipling quote, not to like go way off track, but it's something along the lines of, he who knows only England of England knows almost nothing. Something along those lines. Basically, if all you're familiar with is all that you're familiar with, then you don't know a whole lot about it because there's no context. And that applied here with the Muse. I really didn't know it. I knew a lot of the context around it, but when I finally took the time to get to know it, stuff just started snapping together. And now I'm at the point where the Apple Pencil is not just a decoration at the top of my iPad Pro, it's given me a reason to have this really big canvas, the biggest version of the iPad Pro, because essentially it gives me the biggest version of a Muse canvas that I can have. And I've got this chair in the corner of my office, and sort of like my iPad/Muse chair. And I go over there, and that's where I do a lot of deep thinking, when I'm trying to put something together. And we all know that phrase, think outside the box. Well, it's funny because when Muse is your box, it's really easy to think beyond it because it doesn't box you in. And part of that is just the actual act of going about it differently, not typing it out, starting with pencil and paper, so to speak. And then just to be able to dip into and dip out of all these different canvases and link them. There's like backlinking, so if you've got something that you did over on this canvas, you can get like several canvases away and then link it. And when you change this one, it changes the other one that's nested, somewhere else. It's just a really different way of doing things. And sometimes that difference makes all the difference. So now I'm at the point where if I didn't have the Apple Pencil and if I didn't have Muse on the iPad itself would seem a whole lot less appealing to me. Now that I've used them, I would just be missing out on a big, huge, important part of my workflow that I've come to rely on. And that's how you know something's good. And by the way, this is in no way a sponsored video. There's no sponsor at all for this video. I just wanted to share this because it's something that I've come to love. So there you go. That's just kind of the quick story of how Muse came to completely change the way I think of the Apple Pencil and my iPad Pro. Now, I gotta let you know, I'm working on a productivity course. If you're new around here, get signed up for notifications if you like this video and these sorts of apps, because I'm gonna dive into that 6 C's process within there. There's a lot of great information. Really excited for it, especially if you want to get more done with less burnout in the Apple ecosystem. The link down below where you can give me your email will let you get pinged when that launches. Also, we've got a newsletter, and if you'd like to get some really awesome apps and accessories for your Apple life delivered straight to your inbox on autopilot every Friday, you've got to get signed up for that. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next video. Later.